live, Jim.
Uh-oh.
Okay, let me set the stage. Jimmy and I go way back. We went from kindergarten to graduating from Myers High School.
Not ready yet.
Right? He's not ready yet? Never mind.
Oh.
We're waiting. Cancel that. We're recording, but we want to be on Facebook putting this stuff out.
Okay.
You want to start with just telling me who you guys are, and then talk about stuff that you did on the way up? That was fascinating. You guys were doomed to be in the music business together.
Yeah, we were.
We're doing Facebook.
I don't even know if it's on now. We should make some animal noises. I like John's class.
Okay.
Test 1, 2.
You good?
We're in John Nagel's class.
Yeah. John blows.
Here we are.
I'm Jerry Kishbaugh. I wrote a music column for 25 years, and that's my friend.
Jim Hakim, founder of the Back Doors rock and roll band, reincarnation of the Doors, which agents used to start using the term tribute bands, which I never liked. But
Okay, so I'll just set the stage. Jimmy and I went from school together, from kindergarten to graduating from Myers. And since that time, we've been friends. We put up a lot of stuff. But Jimmy, people don't realize how talented Jimmy is, because not only does he do an unbelievable impersonation of Jim Morrison, he also played guitar. He was a bodybuilder. What else? He was a great artist.
cartoons.
Remember, in high school, you're always drawing things.
Yeah, cartoons.
He was a bodybuilder, believe it or not, yeah.
Yeah, now I'm a skinny guy again, and I feel good being skinny and in shape.
Then he became the late, great incarnation of Jim Morrison. So,
Yeah.
with that said, how did you first learn about the Doors?
At your house, Jerry was the first collector of all the new recording artists that came out back in the 60s. I heard the Kinks, the Animals, the Turtles, the Red Young Rascals, every new band that came out. Rolling Stones, Jerry had their albums first. He'd invite a few of us to go over to his bedroom and listen to them. And in 67, early 67, when the Doors first came out, Jerry said, "You gotta hear this band. These guys are really unique, really different." Went over there, we all listened together, and we all agreed, boy, this new band, the Doors, really were not like anything else we ever heard. And Jim Morrison's voice was like haunting, powerful, screeching sometimes. I mean, he really grabbed your attention. Every song from the end, Soul Kitchen, Backdoor Man, Break On Through, all of it. I mean, every song, he just knew how to grab your attention. So I knew then this guy was really unique and special in the singers of rock and roll.
So Jimmy, when did you start the Back Doors? When did they start?
I had the idea in 1979, and I just saw rock and roll coming back after disco started running its course in the 70s. People were getting tired of disco. Rock and roll started to come back. And I had to have something new, because I played rock all my life. Lead guitar, different bands. Eddie Day and the Nighttimers, the Avantis, different bands around the area. So I wanted to do something different. And Jody Bush, our good friend, had a band. He was already playing out, so I said, "Jody, can I try and sing a Doors song with you, Roadhouse Blues on stage?" Jody, "Yeah, come right up." Did it, went over really good. Then I contacted Bob Welsh, or Bob Welsh contacted me, and he wanted to play drums. And from there we started getting our heads together. How can we get a band together to do something different and do Doors all night long, but not just play them like a cover band, because if you cover bands, they can make mistakes. They could be not sounding so much like the original artist. But when you say you're going to come back and be the reincarnation of a band that's not here anymore, you better be accurate. And I knew I had to be accurate. And everybody in the band had to be accurate, because we weren't. The audience wouldn't deal with it. They would not tolerate it. And so we had a little bit of fear inside of us that we had to do it exact, sound like the recordings, act like the people on stage that were in the band of the Doors. So we did everything we could to make it as close to authentic as possible, so the critics in the audience wouldn't give us any harsh back lash, so we had to be
How long did it take
good.
you to get the Morrison voice down?
I worked on it from over a year. I worked on it pretty hard. I mean,
That's
I
what I thought, yeah.
and the character of Jim Morrison and the band. Once we got together, July of 1980, we started rehearsing every day, 5 or 6 nights a week for 5 or 6 hours a night.
What
5 or
was the
6
original
hours a
lineup?
night.
Other
It was
than you?
me, Bob Welsh on drums, Bob Zivney on bass, Mark Hartman on keyboards, and Chris Conrad on guitar.
Okay, and that changed over the years, right?
Yeah, after about several years, started changing. You get burned out on the road. It's a rough
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
really rough.
You didn't like the road after a while?
Yeah, I went there 23 years on the road, just about 23 years. And the last several years, I just wanted to get out of it. I wanted it to end. I couldn't take it anymore. It was just getting to be too much. It's a hard life to be out there driving on the highways every night in
Where did the
motels.
tours take you? How many states?
Every state in the mainland except Alaska and Hawaii, but all 48 states in the mainland and all provinces of Canada.
Wow. How was crowd reaction all over?
Really good. Our first night was the warm-up. I talked to my friend Nick Pantages, who I knew for many years. He had the warm-up lounge in Hazleton. That was our first time we played there, January 24th, 1981, our first job. Went over great, sold the place out. I told Nick, don't worry about paying us. We're unknown. You don't know who we are. You don't know how we're going to draw. We'll take the door. You take all the alcohol sales. And that's what we did, and we sold out. And Nick said, wow, I can't believe this. I should have just paid you guys, $600 or $700. So
Yeah.
we started taking the door in many places after that.
Not only did he get Morrison's vocals down, he really immersed himself into the character.
Yeah, I had to.
Tell him the stuff you did. I mean, I remember, I don't know how true it is, but Morrison used to drink a lot of whiskey before the show. Did you do that stuff?
Yeah, in the first 8 or 9 years I did, and
And then you did
after
the
that,
Lizard King, right? You had an iguana?
yeah, I had 3 lizards, big iguanas on stage. One was 6 foot, one was 4 foot, one was 3 foot. The 6-footer was the nicest one. He was the nicest one to get along with. The other ones were nasty. When they'd bite me, I'd tease them, and I got stitches in my nose, so I'd put my nose up to the smallest one, 3 foot. He was the most vicious. I'd tease him like this. He'd snap, and I'd get bit in the nose. I got 7 stitches in North Carolina.
So you weren't the Lizard King if they're biting you.
Nah, I still liked it. We got along good. I slept with them. They slept in my bed with me. I drove a Thunderbird back then. The band went in a van and a truck, and I took the Thunderbird, and 3 lizards ran around loose in the Thunderbird. In the motel rooms, they ran around loose too. No cages, no nothing.
So how long did you do this? How many years?
Almost 23.
23? Anybody else? Do you miss performing?
First 8 or 9 years I didn't. I couldn't wait to be out of it. But now I do. I dream about it at least
Do you?
3 or 4 times a week. I wake up, think I'm still in the back doors,
My
thinking we're on the road.
You got a couple of drummers here.
Johnny Young and Bob Welsh. Yeah.
But where's Chris?
I don't know where that. I wonder where Chris is.
I don't know. So what else, Jim?
So many things that happened. You were in my first band, 1961. I was 12 years old. We were in 7th grade.
Oh,
And you played saxophone in that
And you
band.
remember the song?
We played 3 songs.
I remember Michael. That's all I remember.
Yeah, Michael, Never on a Sunday, those old standards. And
Then my
Mexican, a
my
song
saxophone broke.
broke on stage, yeah.
It was
Song
more like a
called-
comedy act. That's what it was.
Yeah.
He kept playing though.
Yeah, and the second band in 1962, 8th grade, that's when we got a serious band. We started playing around high school dances all around Wyoming Valley. And that's when it started getting serious.
So tell how about our high school days? Did we have fun or no?
Yeah, we were making animal noises in class, getting in trouble almost every week. The 2 of us always getting in trouble. We got good grades too.
Yeah.
But we were but we were always making noises, acting up,
What
Yeah,
they
we
do in
had,
the study halls.
yeah, they were good.
I did the Tarzan calls.
Yeah,
And people gave me sandwiches to do that. So
yeah.
I never got caught though.
Yeah, he'd do it in disguise somehow, and he was like a ventriloquist.
Yep.
He'd do it out loud, and the teacher would look around, and Jerry'd be sitting there like
Jody
he was,
didn't know I'm a ventriloquist.
yeah,
So what do you do now, Jim? You just hang around? What do you?
busy. Just the opposite life of being in a band. Not at all. No more travel.
You said
stay
you don't
home.
like travel, being on the highways.
I can't take it anymore. We drove almost over 2 million miles driving, not including plane. And back in the late 90s, Guinness Book of World Records told me that if I had documentation of all the miles we drove,
Wow.
we could be in the Guinness Book of World Records. But who's going to document everywhere you went for almost 20 years? So I didn't have that. But these days, I don't drive anywhere more than 10 or 12 miles in a couple of day period. Stay home, use my gym, my home gym. Help Mark Miller. He has the American Association of Lost Children. He finds missing children,
Really?
kidnapped children. Yeah, Mark found over 140 missing children since the late 80s.
Wow.
So I help him with his projects, fundraisers. He's a great person.
He's helping with that, or?
Yeah, he's from Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Been helping him for the last 12 or 13 years, and he's out in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He gave up his job as stockbroker because he saw nobody was out there rescuing missing children. You see their signs in Walmart, see their signs, but nobody's out there going looking for them. He finds out where the kidnappers are. He spends all his time and money researching. On the day he finds out where they are, he takes the parents of the kidnapped kids with him, free of expense. The parents don't pay 1 cent. He gives them money, posters. He prints them all up for the missing children. And he goes out there with his team. He has a team of about 6 guys, big, strong guys. They go out there with law enforcement. Once he pinpoints where the kidnapper is, and then they go out, the law enforcement go out and gets the kidnapper. They're dragging the kidnapper out in handcuffs, and the kidnapper screams at Mark. Mark told me many times he gets death threats from the kidnappers. So he's an amazing person.
Just so you know, it's a public service announcement. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to show them some of your paraphernalia?
Yeah. Here's Jim Morrison's sister and me, and the cover of Billboard magazine. Back in 1983, we played the Wax Museum in Washington, D.C.
Well, tell them how you were up in line for the role of Morrison in the movie.
Yeah.
And you got what happened there?
We were on tour, Nova Scotia. Oliver Stone first had the idea for making the true story of Jim Morrison. And he found out about us, so he had his people contact my people, my agents. My agents contacted me. We were in Nova Scotia and all around Canada on tour. And they got back to Oliver Stone, but he said because he doesn't want to get in the middle of breaking up a tour and then we'd be sued by the clubs we were playing all over Canada or U.S. Val Kilmer was already there rehearsing for the part. He wanted it really badly. He was established, so Oliver Stone just said, we might as well stick with Val Kilmer because he's really dedicated. But he was really interested in having me get out there for a tryout, but never got the chance. We were playing 6 nights a week back then on tour all over U.S. and Canada. We were just tied up.
So could anybody ask him a question, or you won't hear it? Could somebody?
Yeah.
Maybe the 2 drummers?
Yeah, my voice is hoarse. Don't mind that, but it's okay.
You're doing good.
Yeah. I get hoarse. I'm not talking and not singing too much. I stay home a lot. I don't go out anymore.
You sing anymore?
No, I didn't sing since 2003.
Really?
July of 2003 was our last time we played. 3 months later, October of 2003, Ted Turner, the owner of CNN, one of his aides called me up at my house. He said, Ted would like to fly you guys down to Atlanta, Georgia, CNN, to play for his 64th birthday on November 19th, 2003. By that time, I wanted out of the band. I just wanted a thing to do with it. Like, now I'm kicking myself. That would have been a great experience. Could have played for Ted Turner's birthday party in Atlanta, Georgia. He would fly us down, all expenses, and pay the band all that and rent equipment for us. And I can't believe I didn't want to do it. The band was mad. They wanted to do it. But I just didn't want to do it anymore, and I still to this day don't want to do it anymore.
So it'll open more doors for you.
Yeah, no more. It's all a memory. I'll listen to it when I hear it on the radio. But yeah, I wish I would have done that one last job 3 months after we broke up. Yeah.
Did you ever write original songs at all?
Yeah, over 200. I threw half of them away. But I did write a lot of songs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We good?
What was it like taking this Doors tribute act on the road for the first time? Nothing
correct them.
like this has ever been done before.
A tribute.
Oh yeah, the reincarnation, yeah.
Not tribute.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. That's okay. Everybody calls it tribute about maybe, see, there's no such thing as a tribute band when we began. I said reincarnation like it says here. But after about 5 or 6 years, then a few other bands came out, started imitating like the Stones and Creedence Clearwater, a good friend of mine began that one. So then agents started naming it tribute. So when we first went out on the road, we started going to the tri-state area, New Jersey. I thought maybe we could play around, if we're lucky, the tri-state area 4 or 5 years. So we played the tri-state area. We had Media 5, first agency around that time. They took us on the road around the tri-states. Rochester, New York, sold out there. Popeyes in Binghamton, New York, sold out there. A bunch of places. New Jersey, Jimmy's Run in Easton, Pennsylvania. We were selling them out left and right. Really did good. Of course, in Wilkes-Barre, Market Street Square, Mickey Finn's, Cook's Lounge, selling them all out. And it was great. I mean, to sell at the warm-up lounge and our very first job, January 24th, 81. And yeah, it was just great. We were selling out. We were getting a name fast, really fast, because we were just
You had a good
different.
PR man in
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre,
We were different.
right?
What?
You had a good PR guy in Wilkes-Barre.
You? Yeah. Yeah, Jerry was writing nice articles about us.
Hey, guys in your band, I mean, 2 of them are here. Who were some of the other guys in your band over the years?
Over the years, yeah. Well, right now, of course, we have John Young, 1990 to 94, our drummer.
91, like 95, it was March of 91, 31 years ago.
Yeah. In the beginning was,
91.
yeah. Very first band member was Bob Welsh, my drummer. He and I both together put our heads together and got the band formed. Bob Zivney and Mark Hartman and Chris Conrad. But from there, it was so many. We must have had about 40 or 45 band members at least, and about 40 or 45 road crew members too.
Wow.
There's so many guys. We were like a circus. We were on the road as a circus. It was rough, rough and crazy, up and down. I didn't even know where I was when I woke up in the morning. I thought sometimes I was in Canada, I was in Florida. We drove so much, we'd go through 5 or 6 states in one day to play one place. The next day, same thing. I never knew where I was half the time. Even when I was awake, I was trying to figure out where I was when I was awake.
How about now?
Well, it's easy now, unless I'm sleeping. When I sleep,
I know where I am.
yeah. When I'm waiting, like I said, 3 or 4 nights a week, I dream I'm in the back doors again. Wow. I wake up thinking I'm in Florida, Canada, California, Nova Scotia, Vancouver, you name it. I think I'm there until it takes maybe 3 minutes to realize I'm back home in Wilkes-Barre.
What are your favorite?
At what point did that dream of becoming a successful musician, at what point did it turn into a business? Did it turn into that point where it's just not fun and now it's a job, now it's work?
That began around late 90s. I say about 98, around there. So yeah, it's going on 18 years by then. And I said, I'm getting tired of this. It's just, I thought it ran its course. I just wanted to get out of, the travel was the main thing. I couldn't take the travel up and down life, going in clubs and then going in motels and in and out, highways all day long. The accidents were crazy. We had 3 real bad accidents where we were almost killed, demolished our vehicles. It wasn't even our fault. Somebody else crashed into us. Drunk driver in Atlanta, Georgia crashed into us. In fact, John was driving that night, John Young.
Yeah.
Remember that? We rolled over, demolished the van. We were almost killed there, but we were lucky we got out of that alive. But so many close calls, plus the accidents I saw. I saw cars and vans shattered to pieces right in front of me over all those years. Just too dangerous being out there on the road. So I said after a while, this is too hectic. I just want to get out of it. And finally by 2003, July, was our last weekend. Played the Pittsburgh Stadium where the Pittsburgh Steelers have their stadium. We played there for our last weekend. And we played Covington, Kentucky. That was our last 2 jobs. Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium and Covington, Kentucky. That was our last weekend.
You have any favorite places to play when you were touring?
Yeah, Bogarts in Cincinnati. There's so many good ones. Got Summers on the Beach in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Vancouver, British Columbia. That was Commodore Ballroom. Nova Scotia was good. Toronto, a lot of good clubs there. Around here in Wilkes-Barre, Market Street Square, Christmas night, every year, Christmas night, December 25th. That was a great time too. So many good memories, so many good ones. All the colleges around Canada and United States.
And we're still friends.
Still friends, yeah. Yeah, we're all friends. All the band members, we're all good. When we see each other, it's like a good reunion. It's like a high school reunion. We're close friends over all these years. We don't see each other much, but when we do, it's always a good get-together. Johnny Young and I are in touch a lot. Bob Zivney and I are in touch a lot. Bob Welsh and I, the drummer, well, all three of us are in touch.
That's good.
Yeah,
And Chris when he shows up.
yeah. Chris Conrad. But Jerry and I since kindergarten.
How about
Two old
that?
friends, yeah, 5 years old. Silly since we were 5, now we're 73. Just as silly now when we get together.
Are we?
Yes, yeah,
I think we are.
yeah. We never grew up all the way. That's why he was a rock and roll writer. I was in a rock and roll band.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah. Jerry was a top-notch writer. His articles got good reviews from a lot of people, a lot of critics.
You know, often people say the pool of talent that comes from the Wilkes-Barre area is underrated.
Yes,
Yeah.
And a prime example is the two of you sitting here right now.
yeah,
An illustrious career in many newspapers,
yeah.
journalism. The Back Door is arguably one of the best products to come out of here, as I joked last time, since Mr. Peanut.
Yeah, Mr. Peanut.
They used to call Jimmy that. Didn't they?
I'm as healthy as a nut, that's why. Just as healthy as a nut. Stay in shape every day in my gym.
There you go.
Except when I was on the road for the first few years. I wasn't in too good a shape then.
Okay. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Oh, it all
Any
goes.
final thoughts?
Trying to think. I don't know. Just let me get my notes out. Do I have any notes anywhere? Somebody asked me a question. I don't care.
There's some notes for you. Oh, they're your own.
Yeah, read them off. I don't care. I can't even read without it.
Uh-oh, you are getting old.
Yeah, my eyes are not as good as they were. I can't read this. Let's see.
I'll pick something out.
Yeah,
Should I mention this one?
I don't care. I don't even know what it is.
He was a centerfold once.
Oh, not that.
Oh, that wasn't there.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? How about you,
Bill
Bill?
O'Boyle. Bill O'Boyle.
He likes.
Bill has to have questions.
Oh, somebody has a question.
I don't care what they are. Jerry doesn't care.
Who are some of the club owners or clubs in Wilkes-Barre?
Well,
Tom Welby?
Tom Welby's great. Jerry Sisk was great.
Jerry Sisk, yeah, Tom Greco,
Who had cooks?
Cooks. Can't remember the name of the owner.
Can't think of it, yeah.
Sam, what's the name of the last name from Mickey Finn's? Great family, he and his wife. They were great.
Well, that became Jitterbugs, right?
Yeah.
You never played there.
But Mickey Finn's in Wilkes-Barre, great club.
Oh, I need that.
Yeah, good idea.
Cheers.
I had my big lizard, the 6-foot lizard, and Mickey Finn's, and I had it up there. I used to have the lizard hanging on me. He had a big, thick jacket, so because his claws were so deep. In my jacket, on stage in Mickey Finn's, some girl in the audience came up and burned his tail with a lit cigarette. He freaked out and went wild, boy. Yeah, I could have got killed.
You have leather on?
Yeah, but still, though, but he could have got my neck. I mean, they got big,
Where do you keep them
6-foot
things?
lizards. They ran loose in my bedroom and my house.
Jesus.
And my Thunderbird when I drive on the road. Every time I were on the road in the highway, 3 lizards would hang out in my car, walking around, and people, every car that went by, would be steering and pointing.
You have them on a leash?
No leash. The only time I had them in a box, when we went on stage, I had them in a box when the band was playing. I'd pull them out of the box during one song, the end. Then they were kind of shocked. They see all the lights and all the people screaming and all the noise, so I'd have to hold them tight because, you know, these are
6 foot?
reptiles, you know, big reptiles. So they're sleeping in a box. All of a sudden you pull them out of the box, and that darkness inside the box, and they see these flashing lights, loud music around them, audience, all these people, human beings in front of them, screaming, making noise, cigarettes, smoke. So three reptile lizards are,
You had all 3 at one time?
yeah.
Wow.
I have to hold on to them all at once, juggling their tails, you know.
He juggled iguanas.
Yeah, they're grabbing onto my hair, grabbing onto my shirt. I get bit sometimes. Yeah, I only had alligators in Wilkes-Barre. I brought them out on Wilkes-Barre shows only. Nice-sized alligator, about 4 foot. I couldn't play guitar during those years because I got bit by him a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't get too close. That alligator, he started hissing at me.
If you could, give me the original band members and what instruments they play.
Bob Zivney in bass, Bob Welsh in drums, Mark Hartman guitar.
Keyboard.
Well, keyboards. Chris Conrad guitar.
What was the last one?
Chris Conrad guitar. Mark Hartman keyboards.
Are any of those? I know Ziv's here. Is anybody else here?
Yeah. Mark and Bob Welsh are here. Mark Hartman and Bob Welsh.
And how long?
And
did that group
the
stay
other
together?
drummer.
Yeah, John Young is our drummer during
3
the
of 'em here.
90s.
How long did that original group stay together?
They were together, let's see, Mark Hartman and Bob Welsh left around 84, I think it was. Bob Zivney remained until about 86, late 86. And Chris Conrad left around early 83.
Quick clarification, Chris Conway left first out of Buffalo,
Yeah,
and then Mark left, went to law school, and then Welsh, and then myself in like 85.
yeah. Yeah, Chris Conrad left around late 83. He was the first one. He wanted to get an original band with his brothers.
That's Conrad.
Yeah, Das Conrad. They went to England.
Yeah.
They lived in England for a couple of years doing originals over there. So he was dying to do originals with his brothers. Then the other guys left because, the road is hectic. No matter who I had in the band, that's why I had to leave, like I said before. That road is a tough life. You get into arguments, you're living together 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
living, driving, sleeping together, playing together. There's arguments going on, ups and downs. It's a hectic lifestyle, all that driving, lack of sleep. You're driving all the time, playing all the time, trying to be on schedule, on time. So you get tired. Very hectic life.
Jimmy, when you guys took the stage, what was the crowd like? How did they react? Not just seeing you, but hearing you, and how close you were to the real.
Oh my God, that's why I said we had a lot of newspaper articles here. I did a lot of radio interviews and TV interviews. It went over great. They said we sounded like the Doors and sounded like Morrison, and we acted like him. I acted like Morrison. I didn't look exactly like him. That's, I'm somebody else, but I tried to be like him as close as I could. And, I just tried to be as authentic as I could, especially the voice. I worked on my voice a lot. And like I said, I trained for over a year before I even got the band to start practicing. I had to convince the band that this new idea would go over, because nobody thought it would go over. They thought it was a crazy idea. They said, if you do one band all night long, especially somebody like Morrison trying to sound like him, he sings Crystal Ship with that soft, haunting voice, or Light My Fire, or The End. Then he goes into Break On Through, that raging voice. And Backdoor Man, or later on, Roadhouse Blues, or Down So Long, he's raspy and powerful and deep. Or else he gets that Sinatra-style voice in Love Me Too, in Love Her Madly, or Wintertime Love. He had a few songs where he sounded like Sinatra. He had a versatile voice.
Did you have a favorite Doors song?
Probably Roadhouse and Down So Long,
Yeah.
and Touch Me his voice was great, and Touch Me also, that baritone
Do you
voice.
listen to music today? Any kind of music?
I never listen much now, but the oldies are always my favorites. There's the Doors, Creedence Clearwater, the Beatles, Stones, Hendrix, Zeppelin. I love the same music. I
We're
like
showing our
them.
age.
Yeah, and the
Wait,
50s.
I'm with you too.
50s too. When I first went into music because of Duane Eddy, I was about 7 years old and Duane Eddy came out.
That's
He was
weird.
my idol.
That was my first album.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Twanging guitar.
And here's my first concert. My mother took me to see Duane Eddy at the Paramount Theater, Wilkes-Barre, when I was 10 years old. My mother took me there to see Duane Eddy in person. First concert I ever saw. To this day, I remember that like it was 5 years ago. And he was my idol until The Ventures came out around 1960, 61 with Walk, Don't Run. #1 instrumental. All I cared about was instrumentals back then. The Ventures were my idols from then on. I was in their fan club. I listened to all those acts. Lonnie Mack on guitar, all those guitar instrumental, all the instrumental bands back in the 50s. I idolized them. I loved that guitar work they did. I had to play guitar. That's why all I did was concentrate. I didn't care about singing at all. I played guitar for different bands, Eddie Day and the Night-Timers and the Avantis. Had my own bands, like I said, from 61 until about 68 when I began playing with the Avantis. Eddie Day later on and other bands after that. And then disco came out, I quit. Disco started dying out around 78 or 79. And I knew I had to get something new, which was the Doors tribute or reincarnation.
Well, it worked.
You ever pick up the guitar and play now?
I didn't play guitar or sing since, no, never at all. I never touched it. I got my guitars, they're all locked up. I didn't play guitar in over 20 years. Didn't sing since July of 2003. Not even one note.
Talk about the laser light shows we used to do.
Yeah, laser light shows. Well, that's right. We were one of the first to have laser light shows in Las Vegas. Yeah, we had a laser light show go on the road with us. They were out of, I think, Houston, Texas. They used to go all over the road with us.
Nice.
Played Las Vegas laser light shows. That's right. And nobody heard of those back then in the early 90s. And then back in the early back doors, we had the fog, what was it called? Dry ice fog machines. Had those back in the early 80s for like Riders in the Storm, songs like that.
Yeah.
The End. But yeah, first the fog machines, then early 90s laser light shows. We had a 3-man laser light show team. Boy, the expense that went on back then. All the money we spent in the back doors, so much money spent.
What do you think was perhaps some of the wild experiences on the road? Wild shows that you didn't expect when you walked into a venue?
I forgot about a lot of them until people started reminding me over the years. I just heard about one about 3 or 4 months ago. Somebody emailed me, said, remember the time? It was a Canadian, somebody in Canada, Burlington, Ontario. That was the original band, 1983. Mark, Bob Zivney, Bob Welsh, and Chris Conrad were there. It was around early 1983, maybe late 82. We were on a big Canadian tour. We were playing Burlington Bernard, a real nice club, big club, sold it out. The crowd was going wild, so we were all revved up, and we were done playing. It was the end of the night. So I walked off the stage, and in front of the whole club was a big glass window, and nothing but glass. I was all worked up from playing in the band all night, plus drinking a little bit. I walked right through the glass. Glass came crashing down. It was like, about 20 to 30 feet high, too, and all wide, and smashed to pieces. People were screaming. I remember the screams. I was on the floor, got knocked down by all the glass. I don't know how I didn't.
You didn't get hurt?
Yeah, I wasn't hurt. I just, people are screaming, thought I was dead. And I got up and I only had a few cuts. That's all. I don't know how I survived that one. I'll never know it.
Is that the wildest it got?
A lot of things. No. That's just
I'm
one instance.
I'm not at liberty to say things.
No, I don't care. Crazy. The usual things that happen in rock bands, like usual things, but I didn't stay in shape in the beginning, but then later on in the 80s, I said, I got to start getting back in shape again. So in the early mornings, I'd start getting up at like 6 in the morning before we had to go on the road by 9. I'd do push-ups, jumping jacks, and yoga, crunches while my roommate would be sleeping, sound asleep. I'd do it in between the beds and in between the wall. I started getting back in shape again. So I couldn't take just being some clown in rock and roll. This wants to live for a rock and roll lifestyle. So I got back in shape and I stayed that way again to this day. I have my own gym now, my house, a great gym. Every day, first thing in the morning, I get showered up, go in the gym, pound it out, every kind of exercise you can imagine. Aerobics. So I was teaching aerobics back in the 70s.
You shower before you work out?
That's right, shower before workout and after. Got to be clean.
Then he pounds it out too.
Don't want to get my equipment. Don't want to get my equipment sweaty. I want it to be clean equipment.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm in California. I was teaching in California because I went out in California back in January 1976. First went out there in 71, only for a few months, but came back, went out there in 76 after that Playgirl thing, and went out there and went for an interview with a real nice health club out there, Northridge Family Athletic Club. Got interviewed, got hired to be a trainer because I had the idea to get aerobics. Nobody heard of aerobics back then. There was no such thing. Jane Fonda wasn't out yet. Galad wasn't out yet. So there's a doctor in Dallas, California, Dallas, Texas, that created the aspect of aerobics. So in 76, I went out there, put my head really, got my mind wrapped around aerobics, went out there to teach weight training and basic yoga, but I worked aerobics into it. And I really got aerobics, worked out with all the people. So I started getting a lot of people started talking about it. That my class really grew fast. Then I became manager of this club. We had an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Chris Knight was in my class. He's the kid that played Peter in Brady Bunch. He was in my class. Nice, real nice guy. I didn't even know who he was because I never watched the Brady Bunch until later on.
I never watched.
And then I had Richard Dreyfuss taught him a little bit, the actor, and different people. Adrienne Barbeau came out there. She was an actress. But yeah, so aerobics were my big thing then. So aerobics caught on. So then I went to a big party for fitness people that were really on the top of the fitness industry in California. Spent some time with Arnold Schwarzenegger, got to know him. He was great, really got to know him. Spent some time with Lou Ferrigno, trained with him for a week. I was a lot bigger then. But Louis Ferrigno was a good guy. Very down there, strong like a monster. He was like 6'6.5" and all muscle. To see him in person, I remember he had this tricep push down machine, and Louis said to me, "Just push it, just push it." And I'm pushing and pushing, and he says, like this, you know. And I was strong back then because even Steve Mahalik and those guys and Schwarzenegger told me, you know, I was definitely strong back then. But these guys were the greatest. So I got to know them pretty good. Schwarzenegger was the nicest guy you could ever meet. Greatest guy in the world. We spent time, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, really?
And we spent time walking around, a couple different times, just the two of us walking around, laughing. He liked the Beatles a lot. And he told me a lot of stories, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is back before he was the Terminator, before he was governor. This is back in the middle 70s. And before he even made, I think he had one movie out then. He had one movie out, it was called...
Conan?
No, before Conan, some other one. Can't place the name. It was after his first movie was out. And he was Mr. Olympia back then.
Yeah.
All the title. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life.
I did learn something about Jimmy tonight that I didn't know. I thought for all the shows he wore a wig. But tonight he informed me it was his real hair from how long?
From 81 until 87.
But it would, I mean...
That's my real hair.
Yeah. It's an actual reincarnation of his hair.
Yeah, I had my real hair for the first 6 or 7 years.
You had a lot of hair.
Yeah, that's my hair. But I couldn't take that long hair anymore, so after a while I just started getting a wig around the late 80s. I hated the wig more. The wig drove me crazy.
When did you start using the wig?
How many days?
You use the wig or no?
You mean on the stage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used that in the later 80s.
Towards the end?
Yeah, towards the end.
All right.
Yeah. All through the 80s, mostly I had my own hair.
Oop, 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 oop.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Jim Morrison's sister, she was good. Spent time with her. Yeah, Jim Morrison's sister came to see us play at the Wax Museum, 1982 or 83.
I'm ready.
And she was real nice. We did a radio interview next day together. They picked us up in a limousine, and she was telling me stories about Jim when he was growing up. Great brother, good big brother to her and her younger brother Andy. Jim was the oldest. She was 2 years younger. Andy was 2 years younger than her. But she said when Jim was recording the Soft Parade, the Doors' fourth album, they were recording the song Touch Me, and Jim was kind of drunk that day. And Ann Morrison, his sister, brought her son. He was only 2 years old, and they named him Dylan. In between takes for the song Touch Me, Jim Morrison would yell out to his nephew, her son, "Hey, Dylan!" And they do the next take. Each take, every take before Morrison would record the song Touch Me, "Hey, Dylan," he'd yell out as Ann Morrison was holding her two-year-old son. So she never forgot that. But she said all the truth about him saying he couldn't stand his parents and saying they were dead. That was all true. He disowned his parents when the Doors were out there. He pretended he said his parents were dead even though they weren't. He'd never talked to his parents as long as he lived. And his father, who was the youngest admiral ever in the U.S. Navy, was really depressed about that. And when his father, George, died, he was one of the first persons in the U.S. Navy, admiral, who had access to nuclear weapons. I mean, he was actually one of the persons who started creating nuclear weapons, Jim Morrison's father. But he was really depressed until the day he died about he and Jim never getting along or never talking again. George.
Your sister saw you, Jim. What did she think of the Back Doors?
No, she loved it. We got along. That's why we had the radio interview together next day in the Washington, D.C. radio station for about 2 hours. But she even says right here, our first quote, says, Ann Morrison Graham, between wiping away the tears, I was absolutely amazed. Jim Morrison's sister. Yeah, we got along great.
This is our honorary poster holder.
Yeah. We had a lot of good reviews in newspapers, radio stations, TV stations, all around U.S. and Canada. Entertainment Magazine, or what was that called? Entertainment Tonight. We were on that show, Entertainment Tonight, around the mid-'80s. Different TV shows, local, national. Because there's no such thing as a band that did this kind of a thing until other tribute bands started playing around the mid-'80s, late '80s. And yeah, we had a good career, really good. That's why I have dreams now, because now it's the opposite life. That's why I dream about it now. I wake up thinking I'm still in the band. Even though the first 10 years after the band broke up, I couldn't stand the thought of it anymore. I just couldn't wait to be out of all that travel. That travel wears you down, like I said, it wears you down. 6 nights a week, one-night stands all over the whole country, and Canadian, U.S. tours, never ending. A lot of ups and downs. Even Jerry wrote an article about us right here somewhere. It says, Jim Hakim's still at it, even though there's ups and downs on the road. Yeah, Jerry wrote a whole article about it back around the late 80s. Yeah, that's in here somewhere.
Being the reincarnation of Jim Morrison, were there parallels between your lives that you saw as you were living this character? But were there parallels to your personal life or your experiences?
To a degree. You know, when you're on stage, when you're off stage and people come up to you, you've got to stay somewhat in character because they want to talk to the person off stage, audience members do, who they think is going to be still like Jim Morrison. So I had to act like Jim Morrison off stage with audience people. And once I was out of there, I just went back to being myself, even though I liked being in character. I did like it because he was interesting. He was very poetic, very intelligent, very high IQ. He was straight A's all through school, all through college.
You're talking about me?
Yeah, you too. Jerry and Jim Morrison both.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so like it was a nice experience to even think about portraying a person that interesting with that kind of talent. I mean, his writing ability, his singing ability. In fact, there's one thing I want to say right now. 1968, Rolling Stone voted Jim Morrison #1 male vocalist in the world. 1968. And right now there's a poll going on right now by Washington Post magazine. No, Celebrity Post. It's called Celebrity Post magazine. They have a worldwide poll going on right now. So far they have 1,468 people that voted in this poll. Is Jim Morrison the greatest rock and roll singer of all time? 80% of these voters say yes. 1,468 voters so far. 80% so far say Jim Morrison was their greatest singer ever in rock and roll history. So it just shows the impact he still has.
guys cover Christmas night in Wilkes-Barre? Did you cover that today?
I was probably there. I
Yeah.
don't remember much.
Yeah, we played Christmas night every night in Wilkes-Barre, Market Street Square, Tom Greco's place. And we'd play there every Christmas night, December 25th, must have been about a good 14, 15 years in a row.
And
Always,
every
yeah.
time before that, he'd come in to see me.
Yeah, yeah. Jerry would write an article about us coming back in town. He'd write all about what we were doing on the road.
We had a good time.
Yeah, Jerry was great. I'd go to see him at Citizen's Voice. He was a well-known writer back then, and I was flattered he would always make the time for me too, to come up there and see him in his office, because all the bands respected Jerry. They all wanted him to cover them. All the bands from all over Northeast PA, they wanted Jerry to cover them.
Right, Jody?
Yeah.
I was there with two of them.
Yeah.
Side Street and New York Times band.
That's right. And Jerry would cover us every time he came in town. He'd
And how about our basketball games?
We were talking about that earlier.
Oh, did you? I missed
With
that.
Mark, I was talking.
Oh my
There's all trees
Yeah.
up there now.
God.
Our court,
Basketball?
where we played,
Yeah.
there are all trees all over it.
Yeah. Wonderful time.
That was good.
But Jerry got a lot of good reviews for writing. Jerry was an excellent rock and roll writer, critic. I mean, he had such high respect. Everybody used to know Jerry Kishbaugh all over Northeast PA. All the bands knew
Now
him.
they forgot me.
I don't think you're forgotten. No, I don't think so.
Not the old people.
I think even the younger generation knows who Jerry is. Yeah.
All right, how we doing?
Do we have any other questions so far? I've got one last question for you.
Yeah. You can ask as many as you want. We're here tonight to make it happen.
What happens when the music's over?
For me, it's already been over. I'll never be in music again.
Turns out the lights, come on.
Yeah, turn out the lights. But it's been over for almost 20 years now.
But there's still a part of you that's attached to it, and I
Oh,
think
yeah.
forever will be.
I'll never forget it.
When I hear an old song by any, not just the Doors, if I hear the Animals, Eric Burden, John Fogerty,
Last call.
if I hold John Fogerty, Creedence, Paul Revere and the Raiders, the Turtles, if I any of those bands, I stop what I'm doing. If I'm in a store, if I'm on a radio, I have to listen. I'm still attracted to rock and roll. Little Richard in the 50s, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, Dwayne Eddy, the Ventures, I don't care who it is. Chuck Berry, here's one of the greats of all time, Chuck Berry. I love all those guys. The soul music, Motown, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Temptations, all that. I love it all. They were just James Brown. We crossed paths with James Brown several times on the road. Didn't talk to him, but we crossed paths. We played with a lot of famous bands. We opened up for, I spent time with Johnny Winter. We played with Johnny Winter in around 1989. It was a big outdoor event. MTV interviewed Johnny Winter and I together. And Bob Welsh was there for that one. I think you were. I'm pretty sure Bob Welsh played, because Bob Welsh came back for about a year. I think Bob was there for that event. We played Johnny Winter. There's Dave Manson, Dave Mason. There's many, Country Joe and the Fish, a lot of bands from the Woodstock era, from the Woodstock days, and we all played together. And we were the tribute band that played with them. So,
Hey, Jim, did you see that the Rascals going to be at
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Kirby?
yeah,
Two main guys.
yeah. But yeah, to be interviewed with Johnny Winter. Johnny Winter was one of my all-time heroes.
interviewed
Yeah,
him.
and to be interviewed with Johnny Winter side by side with MTV, that was a great, great honor. And we opened up for 10 years after Alvin Lee, Kansas City, 1989.
Nice.
That was one of my most memorable times too, playing with Alvin Lee and 10 years after. I mean, I'll never forget that night either. Aerosmith came to see us around 1991 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And Steve Perry, all the guys came, and they really had good things to say about us, so I'll never forget that night. Aerosmith came to see us play, and they loved it. And Steve Perry got up on the table, standing up, and jumping around, watching us. And a lot of we crossed paths with a lot of famous groups over all those years. A lot of famous ones. Bryan Adams came to see us in Toronto. I I forget somebody else, somebody else famous from Canada. Yes, Rush came to see us in 1983. The band Rush. We were playing a club. Bob Zivney would know the name of that club in Toronto. What was the name of that club in Toronto, Bob? We played a small club in. Yeah, whatever that club was. We played a club and Rush came. They were there front row. The club owner came backstage. Hey, Rush is here to see you guys. They're out here in the front row to see you.
Yeah, that was Neil Peart on drums.
Yeah, but and then there's 2 times Don Henley from the Eagles. He wanted me to come to meet him after a show. He was in Toronto. We were in Toronto playing the same night. Didn't happen. I forget. It was so hectic back then, but he sent over a few guys from his road crew to tell me that Don Henley from the Eagles wants me to come over and meet him. Because back then there's no such thing as a band doing like what we were doing. And Don Henley was a big fan of the Doors. He loved the Doors. So we didn't get to meet. I didn't meet him, but there was so much of a rat race going on back then. All the crowds and all that. Club owners, promoters, and agents all talking at the same time. And so yeah, I didn't meet him, but and Jack Scott, a famous singer from the 50s, he had that song "My True Love." He was one of the first singers I ever liked in my life. He had a real deep voice, "My True Love," big hit, #1 song, and he wanted me to come and meet him. He is playing also. It might have been Ottawa. What's the name of that province? Quebec. Ottawa, Quebec, the capital. So, of Canada. So I didn't get the chance to see the Jack Scott either. There's so many major artists that we crossed paths with that I never thought I would meet in my lifetime. So that was a good experience, really good.
In the words of the Doors, this is the end.
Is this the end?
It doesn't matter to me.
We have to do it proper. You can cue me up.
You what?
So if you want to say bye to the audience until the next interview?
Yeah.
See you next time. Uh-oh.
If there's any, so I talk now? If there's any old friends in the audience from Canada or US, feel free to contact me anytime because I miss all my old friends I made. So many old friends I think about over all the years. I talked a lot tonight, which I usually don't do anymore, but tonight...
You were rolling tonight.
Yeah, tonight, I don't know what it is. I usually stay quiet, but tonight I didn't.
I got you going.
Yeah, Jerry got me going. He's here.
I wound him up before he got here.
Yeah, Jody and Jerry both got me all riled up.
Yeah, we did.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both for this. I hope everybody will tune in for the full Jody Bush Community House interview with all of the back doors.
Yeah.
Sense of footage that we have recorded that will be out and released soon. So I hope everybody will tune in for that. Mr. Hakim, thank you. Mr. Kishbaugh, thank you.
You're welcome.
For Jody Bush's Community House.
I'm Todd Anglewitz.
Thank you.